All right, we are getting more breaking news which is just coming in. Remember, the UAE has been severely impacted by what we're seeing, what we have seen in the past week. Alert in the UAE over incoming missiles from Iran. This is the latest that we're getting for you right now. Defense is responding there. UAE air defenses are currently responding to the incoming missiles and drone threats from Iran. It asserts that the sounds heard are the result of the air defense systems which are intercepting missiles and drones. So this is the latest information that we are getting right now. Let's just bring you more updates from the newsroom on this. Also, we have Kritsween here with us. Kritsween, minute by minute developments coming in from the UAE. What can you tell us?
Yeah, if I can quickly ask a video journalist to take a look at this one statement that's coming from the Ministry of Defense UAE, confirming the same that UAE air defenses are currently responding to incoming missile and drone threats from Iran, also asserting that the sounds heard are the result of direct air defense systems intercepting missiles and drones. So this is one update that's come in, which you were just speaking of, and this is the official statement of the same. A lot of reactions as well. Look at how closely this war, the conflict is being tracked on social media as well. A quick update by IDF that I also want to share with our viewers. This is the IDF sharing a map speaking of how over 80 Israeli Air Force fighter jets have struck key Iranian regime military infrastructure, and they've taken to social media this one map talking about it in detail. So they've highlighted 3 key locations. They're saying all of these have been targeted. One is the IRGC Imam Hussein Military University. It's used for IRGC officer training and assembly compound. This is the university complex. They're saying this has been struck down by the Israeli Air Force. The second is a ballistic missile storage facility. So this is the storage site. Remember, as has been promised and vowed, both Israel and United States continue to target several missile launchers in Iran. So this is the ballistic missile storage facility that's been attacked. Also underground missile command infrastructure. This is the underground infrastructure for storing these ballistic missiles. Now, Iran does have several such underground capabilities, which now increasingly are being targeted both by Israel and the United States. The other update that I wanted to show and revisit is this. This is IRIS Lavan that's currently docking, remember, with Indian Navy's assistance. We've been talking about this one development as well, because remember him, there were 3 naval vessels, Iranian vessels that were to take part in the naval exercise which was taking place in India, of which IRIS Dina was attacked by the US submarine. This is the other naval vessel which in fact is being assisted by Indian Navy as we speak. So these are visuals that we have of the same, and possibly Akash will be able to share more details on the communication that's been taking place around it.
We'll just go across to Akash for more on this as well. Now, of course, remember viewers, as we see more strikes and counter-strikes which are continuing, it also raises the spectre of what happens going forward, especially when we talk about some of the more densely populated areas as well. We have Akash here with us who can perhaps help us track the movements of the vessels that we're currently talking about as well. Akash, what can you tell us?
Right. So, you see, we have been discussing the maritime domain and the sort of disturbance, that we are seeing in this particular area because of what is happening. There are several sort of routes, and specifically when we talk about this strait, the Strait of Hormuz. So we know that how, even for India, 40% of our crude, is coming from this particular region. And when, we are talking about this sort of conflict, or I should say war, so we know that how the entire area, is disturbed. In fact, agencies like IFC-IOR yesterday came out with a weekly report. And other than the warships, the civilian traffic is also there. We have oil tankers, we have cargo tankers. You see him, there is a group of vessels here. And it is possibly because they just don't want to transit because of the kind of conditions we have. Iran, of course, yesterday claimed that, they have not restricted any sort of traffic. But then we know it for a fact that how more than 10 ships have been targeted, civilian ships, in fact. These are oil tankers, cargo tankers, and agencies like, IFC, IOR are constantly reporting that how there are total 12 incidents in last few days, starting from 28th of February, when we had, all these ships passing from this particular area, and, when they got hit. Now, other countries are definitely helping them out They are receiving distress calls. There are MRCC centers, in countries like Oman. In fact, at different places, we have the MRCC center where, they coordinate the kind of, efforts that are required for these things. And we have been given to understand that agencies like Indian Navy, in fact, are, taking care of all those efforts. But right now, this is one disturbed area. That is, in fact, is highlighted by people across the globe. Other than that, we have been seeing that how normal traffic is going on in the Indian Ocean region, in the Arabian Sea, and, in larger context, if I talk about Indian Ocean region. So we know that how, these vessels are, in fact, exercising their freedom of navigation right. But then this particular area, the Strait of Hormuz, is one disturbed area where both the countries are, claiming that they have not restricted the traffic, but we know the conditions as well.
Right. So there, viewers, unrelenting strikes continue, disruptions continue, air traffic disruptions as well. On all fronts, we are seeing some sort of an escalation when we talk about the rhetoric that's coming from all sides as well. Completely unwilling to come to the negotiating table, which begs the question then, what will it take to end the war that we are seeing right now? If you were to go by the statements of the United States, Marco Rubio, they're saying that it's going to last for weeks. Even Donald Trump saying that this will at least continue for 3 to 4 weeks. Let's just go back into the studio. More updates there as well. All right, so here are all the latest developments which are coming in also. Now, as this West Asia conflict edges closer to India's strategic neighborhood, reports say the US is pressing Sri Lanka not to repatriate survivors from the Iranian frigate, the IRIS Dina, which it sank off the Sri Lankan coast. Washington, we've been given to understand, has also asked Sri Lanka not to return the crew of another Iranian ship. This is the IRINS Bushehr, currently in its custody. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka has let second Iranian ship dock in Trincomalee and evacuated all 208 on board. Top government sources have also revealed to CNN News 18 that Iran had earlier asked India to allow its naval ship IRIS Lavan to dock at Kochi due to technical issues. Remember, that's exactly what we discussed with Kritsveen and Akash in the newsroom as well. And this is